What's up, Ramblers? Your favorite CEO is back. And before we begin today's podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode. And follow Assistance HQ and Offsource HQ across all platforms to stay up to date on the latest content, updates, and more. And remember, if you need a virtual assistant, visit us at offsource.tech. Now, before we begin, a word from our sponsor. Hey guys, welcome back to another wonderful episode of The Ramblings. I'm your host, Angelo Roberts, and I have with us an amazing guest host. And I know I always say that, but this is a special feature, Marvin Louis. And the reason is because he is an entrepreneur, young graduate, amazing person. And for those of you that cannot tell, because you're going to be listening on audio, he's Black. So that's the extra bonus. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How are things going?
Sure. Everything is going well. A little bit about myself is I'm a doer. I like to do things. So outside of my professional life, I'm in a band. I play keyboard. I run the youth at my church. I play soccer. I play in like 2 different soccer leagues, and then I'll play pickup here and there. Okay. Yeah, I'm an avid sport/music enthusiast. And in my professional,
do you play any instruments?
Yeah, I play keys. I play keyboard.
Okay.
Yeah, I play the piano, and then I do a little bit of bass, but I'm not so proficient. And even with the keys, I'm still, learning because I'm self-taught. I've been playing for.
That was actually going to be. I was thinking I should ask him, is he self-taught? Because I know a lot of people are self-taught. Yeah. I used to play guitar. I am not self-taught.
You're okay. I mean, it's fun being self-taught, but it's also not, because when I have gone to actual teachers to try to learn how to play, certain chords. I don't know, I've wanted to have a different style recently. For example, I was born and raised in church. My father is a pastor. So I kind of grew up playing the keys. And so when I moved to America and I heard the Black church, that's a different style of music. Very different, super different. So yeah, the chords, I was just like, I need to learn this. So when I went to a buddy of mine who I met, and I was like, hey, can you give me some lessons, et cetera, et cetera. And it was hard to unlearn what I already knew, because I taught myself for over 10 years how to play a certain way. And then, but I mean, regardless though, I'm self-taught it's been over 11 years now. I got very basic lessons, and it was, yeah.
It was a wrap from there.
It was a wrap from there. Yes. It's good and it's bad, but yes, positive only though, as part of it, part of the experience, I guess. Yeah.
I like that. So you mentioned that you were lead coordinator at DMCT, which for those of you guys that don't know is Digital Media Connecticut. Tell us a little bit about your role there. What do you do?
Yeah, so Digital Media Connecticut is an organization that is state funded, but we work through sort of the UConn system, and by that I mean kind of the back end stuff. But Digital Media Connecticut is a program that is aiming to retain digital talent. So if you are from the state of Connecticut or went to a Connecticut state or college, community college, whatever, and you graduate with a digital media degree, which can be communications, which can be game development, film, media, and just anything that has to do with media and digital, did the digital field. We want you to stay and work in Connecticut. So my job as the lead coordinator, I manage a collaborative made up of different university department heads or sort of department directors. So, so as part of that collaborative, we have Quinnipiac, we have the Sacred Heart University, UConn, Norwalk Community College. Honestly, the list goes on. But so what we do is we come together and come up with different projects and ideas to sort of boost that retention. So one of the things that we recently started was a mentorship program, and we kicked it off this year. And it's a pilot. We'll see how it goes this year and see what next year will look like for it in terms of funding and the success of the program. But the mentorship was essentially to put students in real world experiences, and just so that they can see what it's like. But what I like about it is the expectations that we put as an organization in front of our partners. So we bring you a student, we say, they should be getting this out of the experience, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not your average internship, and we stay away from the word internship and prefer mentorship or sort of a learning experience rather than sort of the formal internship aspect, because that requires a lot of pressure. It's too much. Right. So we built a solid curriculum of, okay, what would you like to learn before? And so far it's been splendid. It's been awesome. Mm-hmm. We've learned so much, and some of the students, and we're still going with the program, some of them received opportunities. We've done, mock interviews as part of the programming. We've gone to Wheelhouse Studios, who just moved to Stanford. And we saw their campus that wasn't even done yet. So we were lucky enough to get a tour, and we want to do tours at these organizations so they can, again, real world experience. So bringing them there. So it's been awesome so far. So, but yeah, what I do is I'm the middleman essentially to a bunch of different projects. I engage partners, I engage Art Collaborative, I engage different universities, schools, et cetera, et cetera.
So primarily a lot of things within the educational sector, industry, kind of things of that nature. So would it be safe to say, well, that's not necessarily corporate then, but it's the corporate area kind of world. I want to make sure I label this. So for this particular question, we coming up in similar aspects, you rising in corporate, me rising in entrepreneur, we deal with a lot of people that are older than us considerably, because that we're considerably young. What is your kind of tactic or deal on how you deal with like working with like older colleagues?
Sure. So since the beginning of our conversation, we talked about how I was young, whatever, and I graduated early. So I tend to have always been around folks who are older than me. And in my previous role, I was the youngest one by like 20, 30 years in an office. So I am sort of used to it, but I guess what I'll have to say is that I've been mentored long enough about how to and I honestly don't think that my mentors though were intentionally like teaching me how to navigate being around folks.
Okay, so were they like official mentors, or were they like people that you kind of leaned into?
I never really called them mentors, people who I kept in touch. It's basic, like I don't call them mentors, but people who I consistently keep in touch with and do mentee stuff with.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying.
Basically what I'm saying is that there's no formal like you're my mentor and like do this, do that type of thing.
But he was there to teach you. You would ask questions and everything.
Exactly.
Definitely help you along the way.
Yeah, learning how to write a formal email. Having that under my belt probably by like freshman year of college, which by the way, a lot of university/college freshmen, writing a proper email, used to be a challenge. They're getting better these days, but like that's a small little skill set that I took, and I honestly still have it till this day. When speaking, sounding proper in an email is super important. But anyways, that's like a little important thing that I picked up on. But so to answer your question though, that kind of separating my age. Whenever I speak to any folks who are older than me, if you don't see my face, you would not think that you're older than me. You would not.
I agree. Yes, I agree. I like that. I have that same kind of thing going. Yes.
Right. And that is one thing that I've developed over the years, and I've learned that that's, how you, carry yourself. And when you see me in person though, I have a lot of young energy. So
listen, yes. It's over the phone. You would absolutely think I was like an older, like middle-aged, maybe
correct,
fairer skinned kind of person.
Correct.
And then you see this young kid and you're like, oh.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess. And I'll say the same for you too. Before I met you, I sort of, in my head, I honestly thought the person I was gonna meet was not who I had in mind, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like
it's the name. My name throws but the name is what really throws it off.
That's right.
I told you, because you have like an older person kind of set, like Marvin. That's like older person kind of sounding name. Like no one's like, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with Marvin today. And like they're like, yeah, I'm young. No, we're going to the bar today, Marvin.
Yeah, it's a name thing. I guess to make it, I guess to my friends would say Marv. That's the easy way to say it, or to make me seem like a younger person. But I don't think I have a specific sort of way that I handle it. But I'm always super, if I'm working on a project and I have goals and whatever, and in my previous role, in my current role, I'm interacting with vice presidents and like executive directors and managers. So I have to, I can't be informal. I have to be, very straightforward, straight to the point. And it's funny because sometimes when I get off work, I turn off a lot of work stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna play video games and just not worry about any of that. But it's a very important skill set though, regardless, in the business world. As a young person, as an entrepreneur, as an adult, as because I've realized that there are, I guess, certain ways to be, or and this could say I'm completely wrong on this, and someone could completely disagree on this, but if depending on where you are, there are certain ways, I guess, to interact, and that's just I don't know, maybe that's just a crazy world truth that
Right.
But anywho, though, the thing is, what I like about the way that I do it is I always still bring my young energy. I'm always myself. Right. I always slide a joke in there. And that's me all the time. I'm always happy, joyous. And when I host events, because I host a lot of events and I run a group of young professionals, and they're always older than me, of course. And when I
run a group of young professionals that are older than you.
Yeah, yes. Yes. I haven't met any of them who are younger than me just yet. But yeah, when I host these events, and these are professional development events, and I have to act like a professional who is developed. You know what I mean? As the leader of that group, I can't just come in there. And I think that speaks to what I was saying earlier. I can't come in there in a professional development event and not, seem professionally developed. But at the end of the day, though, you will still see my characteristic and my my real self, basically. So I don't lose myself though, and how I interact in my professional way, essentially.
Now, I like that. Growing up though, we do a lot of different things to be at a particular place at a young age. What did you spend a lot of your time doing to get the skill set that you have now?
I'm meeting people. I talk to a lot of people. I know people from whatever industry that you can think of off the top of your head. I know somebody who is junior, entry level, or senior level. And if I don't, I know somebody who knows that person. And I never intentionally did that. I was just always a people person, and I always liked to meet people. So I was always around people. And I figured this out later on in my professional career that this was the goal of it. And I didn't know that was not the goal for me. I was just meeting people, and I love meeting people. But I started to realize, dude, you've built a crazy network by just meeting people. Now
I want to, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but
sure. No, no, go ahead.
When you're meeting people, it's important. I want to note that, like, where are you meeting these people at? Because someone might listen and be like, oh, I'm going to go, I'm meeting people. And then you always catch that person who's at the party, like, yeah, I'm here networking. And I'm like, not necessarily the right time. I mean, you can, yes, you can, yes, but you're not here networking like that. Like, so give us some sauce on where you're in these areas and how you're entering, meeting these junior level, entry level, senior level people.
Sure. So I mean, and as you were asking the question, I started thinking about all the networking events that I've been to, but that's a generic answer. I network everywhere and anywhere. For example, I will go to a grad party, but whenever I walk in a room, though, I do this thing where I read the room. It's like instinct. I really, I don't know. That's like a thing that I always do. I read the room, and I'm always like, okay, I would like to meet this person. Okay, I would like to meet this person, or know who's who, right? If I go to a graduation party, I'll meet whoever the graduation person is. I'll say hello to them, and I'll meet their friends. And then I'll have those, I sort of don't have and people will think a lot of my conversations are fluff sometimes, but they're not fluff conversations. I know how to ask questions, to understand a person, essentially. So I am always like,
okay, I want to know. I want to know these questions. Like, what are some of these questions?
Sure.
Like, ask me some questions because you said people say they're fluff. I want to see. Like, I want to see.
Sure. All right. So, okay. All right. If I met you today, Angelo, and I met you at a random graduation, I would be like, hey, how do you know the graduating person? And okay, for example, let's say you met me. I went to UConn. You say you met me at UConn, and I would say, awesome. What did you study? Are you guys in the same field? And now you're starting to tell me about, okay, either you were in med school, but I took finance, whatever, and I'm like, okay, so what are you doing today? And from there, honestly, there's a whole professional development conversation that goes on, and I'll start asking, do you like it? Do you not like it? And then you're gonna ask me the same questions, and then instantly from there, we build a connection. And one thing I'll tell you, our generation, there was one point whenever we connected with folks, LinkedIn was like, when LinkedIn was sort of on the rise, I would do this thing where I would go to a party, I would meet a person, instead of asking for like an Instagram or Snapchat, I'd be like, what's your LinkedIn? They'd be like, LinkedIn. Right. And it would be the most mind-boggling thing ever. But I did that intentionally because we just had a great,
okay. So like if you have a LinkedIn,
right.
Okay. That's a nice little thing.
So yeah, but so the thing is with these questions, you have to have intention. Number one, okay, so I guess to make my questions make sense, like with the little examples I just gave, is I always have the intention to understand a person professionally, and then just sort of what makes them, I don't know, happy or smile, or the genuine side of them, right? So like, where do you live? What do you do for fun? If you play soccer, then we have a lot to talk about. We can have a whole 30-40 minute conversation if you follow the league or not. If you're into marketing communications, oh my goodness, what do you graduated with that degree? What did you want to do with that? Like what, and I think you graduated with communications and media studies.
Why? So now I'm asking you why.
Sure. So I was pre-med for 2 years, and and I realized that was not my path. That was my surroundings' path. So like sort of a parental pressure. Okay. And yeah, but I was always, and by the way, in my early 2 years of pre-med, my 2 years of college, I came in with 3 or 4 different majors in mind. I wanted to do business, I wanted to do communications, and that was because one teacher in high school said, you'd be good at that. And I said, communications, I can't bring that back in a Haitian household. Like, what? Like, what? You're gonna talk to people? And yeah. And then I wanted to do medicine, become a doctor. And then 4th, I wanted to be a film director. Okay. So all 4 of those things, super different if you really think about it. There's medical field, there's the film industry, there's communication, and there's business. Some of them overlap, but not the same. So to be real with you though, pre-med, I realized that I hated it. I was working my butt off, and I was getting C's and D's, and I was always a very like A student. I was a very good student. And then my first F ever in life, I got in a bio class, and that stuck with me till this day. And I was just like, okay, you have to know what you're doing.
Are you squeamish? I'm squeamish. I cannot do any kind of medicine because like doing something with the human body will make me squeamish.
So it depends on what it is. Like, it depends on what it is. But I mean, like, blood doesn't really get me. It's squeamish type of, but it depends on what it is. But I was up for it. But okay, like touching things like a frog or a snake and dissecting those to me is like, no, I can't do that.
So like you weren't trying to be like a surgeon or anything like well.
No, I think if anything, I would have been like a pediatrician or something like that.
Okay.
Or,
okay.
Like I don't know, a kid's doctor or something.
Something non-gory.
Yes, thank you. Like where I just do checkups and I'm like, okay, your physical is good. Like you're good to go to school type of thing.
Okay.
I didn't want anything crazy. But so, and then after 2 years of pre-med, my GPA like was going it was on a downward spiral, but I was always acing the communications courses. And then I was like, okay, business would be the next thing because I cannot bring communications home. And it was too late for me to get into the business school. UConn's business school is, it's a challenging program. So my GPA wasn't going to make sense. So that was out of the picture. And then UConn Stanford didn't really have a film / directing program. So realistically, so this is the realist answer. I basically got it because everything else was out of the question, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I was a communications.
So you got lucky.
It was fate. Honestly, it was fate. I'm just gonna call it fate. Like it was fate because I enjoyed it thoroughly. Like public speaking class, I enjoyed social media class, all things that I do till this day. So it was a no-brainer. But I was saying no to it for Lord knows what.
Right. So
yeah,
tell us about how you brought that to your family. Then you said you can't bring it to them. So how did you bring it to them?
Absolutely. So great question. So what I did was I did sit them down and I was just like, hey, listen, this is really not for me. And this is seeming like you're forcing this on me. And honestly, the whole Haitian community in Haiti was forcing this on me every time they saw me as a kid. Cause I'm not boasting or anything. I was very focused on my books. And, when you're so focused on your books in school and hate that the best profession is medicine, something. And then for me, they always saw a doctor. So they've been speaking that over my life for 4 or 5 ever now. So what I did was I sat them down, explained it to them. And I said, listen, but with communication, I will find the best. Like, I'm not just going to do random things. I will know what I want to do. And so I told them I would do something related to business because communication is easily related to business. And so I basically said something about business and it was cool. Like I just related communications to business and I did
switcheroo.
Yes, I did a good job of that though.
Listen, that's a skill. That was communications. Like, listen, the first communications action and work. You see this?
You get it.
Spin. This in the PR we would call this spin control.
Spin control. Yes. You know
spin
what?
Control.
Yes. It was spin control. And I started doing marketing internships. And that's when I started falling for marketing. That's when I was just like, oh, okay, I really like this. But then I also loved social media. So I was like, ooh, social media marketing. But yeah, that's sort of how my career path started to make sense for me as it went on. But it is true. It might take you until your junior year to figure out, maybe your senior year to figure out what you want to do. But as time went on, though, I knew that I didn't want to work for people. So that's when my entrepreneurship side sort of came along. Mm-hmm. But I was always super interested in talking to people, meeting to people. So all of this will sort of make sense to my character, my personality, with a lot of the questions that you've asked, actually. So in terms of how do I meet people? Where do I meet people? All of that has to do with, my communication skills, and which I'm still growing and learning. So. Yeah.
Now, me and you met through actually a miscommunication where we're not gonna say anything, but you didn't show to the meeting at all, and so we just chatted for a nice 30 minutes, which is really how we got to doing this podcast, which was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad that really happened. Thank you. Now, but that's through what my client, and we're doing something with ELF, right? Explain to us how you got involved with ELF and a little bit about what that is.
Absolutely. So the way that I got involved essentially was, so I knew someone who, remember when I said the mentor thing, we're more I would call us friends instead of, but I've learned, oh my goodness, so many of what I just talked about from her, Kate Bird, right? Mm-hmm. And so she was my boss at this freshman year internship that I had during my time at UConn. And from there, we just kept in touch till this day. So it's been 6 years. It's been 6 years now.
Feel old. 7 years since freshman year of college.
Exactly. It's insane. And actually it has been 7 and it's going on 8 because 2022 and it's the fall already. So, and because we graduated in 14 and then straight into 7 years already. So.
Oh, you graduated high school early too.
I did. When I started high school, fun fact, I was 12. I was not a teen yet. So
Mr. Dexter over here.
So
Smarty Pants Jimmy Neutron.
listen, that has evolved into a different type of smartness, though. I'm not like, I don't like to do book stuff anymore. I don't like to memorize things anymore.
But I mean,
But
communications is very much if you're going to be doing like, especially as you go further, like a lot of research on people,
yeah,
reports. I didn't realize growing up how much writing was in bit. I always knew communication, like I always knew speaking. I always knew
yeah.
like math because that was my thing. I'm a math guy. Like numbers, analyzing stuff. Got it. Writing like
Statistics. Are you
properly.
into statistics?
I love statistics. Oh my God, I'll spit fat. I love just looking like in my spare time. I look at statistics like, oh, I wonder how much like Amazon sold of this thing. Oh, this was
Right.
like their X amount of percentage of like their revenue and everything.
And then comparing, oh my God.
Yeah, I
My
very
friend,
much enjoy that. Like, oh, like me and my friends will absolutely just hang out, watch some TV and everything and have like a good time and whatnot.
definitely a numbers
And
guy. Yeah.
definitely just kind of talk about like, oh, we were talking about the lawsuit that what's the lady who plays Black Widow?
I know who you're Scarlett.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
Here we go. She sued Disney for I guess not releasing her movie on HBO Max or whatever, and she didn't get like as much as she could have. But we were like, okay, so let's go look at the numbers and everything. So when we looked at the numbers, she was getting like I think after we totaled everything, I think it was maybe like $30 million or something like that.
After the
No, it wasn't 30 million. It was she had got like 80 or 70% of the money for the movie was just her salary. And I'm like, and then she still was getting paid residual on top of that. And I just love comparing those numbers and stuff like that. But that was me. I didn't realize how much like writing went into this. So communicate, like, is writing like a strong suit for you?
So, and that is such a great question. I think today you're doing an excellent job at asking all the great questions. So writing was not a strong suit for me. I hated it. I hated English class in high school. But in college, right? Again, it was not my essays. I used to start the one sentence that I wanted to say. I didn't know how to elaborate on things. I used to always ask, how do you guys come up with like one prompt question? People will come with 3 pages. I will have maybe 2 paragraphs, and I'm not exaggerating. So what I did was I knew it was a weakness of mine going into this major. So UConn required, I think, 2 W classes at the time. I took W classes until I graduated. So I just kept taking writing courses. And at one of my internships, I was meant to write a blog on I forgot what it was, but I was supposed to write a blog. And I wrote the blog and I brought it to and I'll forever be grateful for her. Her name was Faith. And I brought her the thingy and I printed it out, whatever. Dude, when I tell you there was no space for me to write any, she scolded that paper. She called, it was terrible. I really thought you were gonna say like I did a good job after all this. No. And I'll never forget it because I felt terrible because I was just like, okay, so my writing really sucks. Like I need to improve my writing. So took the feedback and I brought it back. Literally maybe 15% change of the feedback. She was just like, yeah, this is still not it. But she was very like stern with my sort of how to write that blog. But I came up with a final version of it until this day. If you go on my LinkedIn, like it's my one publication. I published a lot more different like blogs and stuff, but what that taught me was there are different languages when it comes to writing. Essay writing is different. Writing a blog is different. Writing an interview is different. Writing a report is different. Like, so yeah, I did a lot of writing and I was never good at it, but I forced myself to get better at it. And I can remember going from a C writing student to by my junior year being like a C plus, and I do mean a C plus. I'm not like, I didn't go far. And then by the time I graduated, I was like a B plus at my graduation. Right. So that was a skill that even after I left the university, I told myself, you can't stop doing this. This is why when I write emails, I try to be always as formal, and I'm big on punctuation. Like if I'm saying like, oh, I talked to so and so, you know, I have to say like who did whatever, because I can't just say, oh, so and so that did. You know, like I always listen now for like little grammar stuff. I'm like a stickler now for grammar. When it comes to editing, I'm like a big stickler now for editing and.
Oh, listen, you will forever have a place in my heart if something like that happens, because I don't even like care at this point. Like I was so far behind on like learning, like write, like I am creative in writing. Like I can like I'll put it like this, like if I put my words on paper, it's going to be phenomenal. But if you were to like grade it as like a writing paper, I would get an F. Like you're like, oh my God, that was like, I understood what he said. Like that was so cool. Yeah. But you're like, oh, you didn't put a punctuation here. You put like miscapitalized, double, like, no, you like between spell, it'll just look like, if you were to look at it, it would just look unprofessional. You were like, oh my God, this person doesn't know what he's doing. Just read it. Like it would be hard to read, like kind of thing. Like,
yeah. So sometimes when I do read stuff, sometimes I'll read books and I'll notice some errors, some grammatical errors from the writers. And I'm like, am I supposed to send them an email like about this? What?
No, I catch things on people's blogs sometimes. Like I don't, but it all depends, I guess, on the reader. Cause some people are like super sticklers.
That
like,
is true.
I have like a friend, and I'm not gonna like say her name because I don't want her to get mad, but she knows who she is when she hears
Better not say her name.
Every single time I post something on LinkedIn, she will like DM me like, hey, you misspelled this and you like want to change this. Like, you know, this is like, you want to be really professional, da 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 da. And I'm like,
wait, so then wait, hold on, quick question then. So then how do you, so then after gaining all that feedback, how, like, what are you doing then to like improve that? Or if like, how are you improving that?
I have Grammarly and I just let someone else check.
That thing is a useful tool, man.
It's an absolutely useful tool. I Grammarly everything, just Grammarly everything, you know, especially like with the tone thing now, like I try to use all of that. And then like, I just run it through someone else. I just let someone else.
Do you reread what you write? You should reread what you write, like slowly.
I try,
like. Okay, all right.
I try. Okay. Anyway, I want to get back to Elf. Right. So you're with Kate. We're circling back to Elf. So you met, Kate. That's how you kind of got into Elf. Explain to us like what that is. It's for those that don't know, ELF stands for Emerging Leaders Funds. So I hope you stayed long enough in the podcast to hear that part. It's Emerging Leaders Funds. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so ELF is called Emerging Leaders Fund, and it's an initiative of NCIC, which the acronym for that right now is escaping me, but it's a nonprofit here in Connecticut. And so the gist of the grant is to support small and minority owned businesses. And, you know, the criteria for that is kind of longer than I'm putting it. And now that I'm thinking about it, I should have had something on my screen, but and I can share more details with you that you can include in the description. But essentially, the org or the business is there to support small and minority owned businesses. I mean, that is the gist of it. And we're doing that through giving grants, through mentoring. And by mentoring, I mean, you know, if you need financial assistance and you need a mentor, you know, providing that, and as well as a community. Yeah.
So is this like we give you money, or is this like Y Combinator? Like we invest in you?
So it's we give you money, but so we try to, and when I said community, it is we give you money, because the gist of what we are also trying to do is to you know, because COVID hit a lot of small businesses, and a lot of them were overlooked. And, you know, like, you know, when they went to fill out that grant application, it was the most complicated process. And it was the loans that was going to come back and bite you in the butt at one point. And it was all of that. So the goal is to make it as simple as possible to share this grant, and then ultimately long-term to get sort of, you know, to get support, to get that to be self.
So do you guys go get the grant from somewhere else, or do you guys are the grant?
We are the grant. And we have a strong, starting with NCIC, right? We have a strong, I believe 500K of, you know, distributable grant for for the start of this, and then the future would be a lot of partnerships and sort of getting the eyes on this to be like, yes, this is awesome, I want to be part of this, I want to support it, I want to pass it on forward.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
And
what, I wish I knew what NCI is like. So are you guys just literally a nonprofit that collects money to give it back out?
so that's the thing though. So NCIC would do that. We are an initiative of NCIC. Not the quote. Yeah, ignore the quote. We are an initiative of that. So
Okay.
NCIC is an established nonprofit, and then with NCIC, we're, essentially, like, if the money came through, it would go through NCIC. The initiative is just called Emerging Leaders Fund. It's a name that,
Got it. So like a branch of like a particular program.
Correct. And we wanted to have a certain image, a certain et cetera, because NCIC is very old school looking type of, organization. And I can send you a link after we get off also, so you can see what it is. But yeah.
That is super amazing, like, and crazy at the same time that like you're working on all these kinds of different projects. And I am never the youngest, I am never like the oldest person in the room, and in this I am now the oldest person, which is,
I know. And it's, honestly, when we started speaking too, I would never guess that we were pretty much the same age. My birthday is a little later, but we're the same year, which is crazy because usually I'm always the youngest one in the same room.
Oh, so you're born in 97?
Yeah.
Oh,
December.
okay. Oh, I'm thinking it was like 98. I'm like, oh, he's like 20, he just turned 23. You just turned. Oh, because
I'll be 24. I'm December 24th. So literally almost right before the year ends. Like, I'm
born on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, Christmas Eve, baby. So I'm legit like, I'm on the far end of the
super end of the spectrum. My birthday's in June. I'm like,
yeah. Which is a nice birthday.
Speaking of, I guess while we're on the subject of birthdays, it just made me think, like, I one day, because I'm like, June is the 6th month in the year, so I Googled like what the exact middle day, thinking, oh, June 19th has to be somewhere around like the exact middle. It's like July something.
Really?
Yes. Like, based
I
on,
would have
like,
never guessed.
Based on days, it's like July.
It's gotta be early July.
It's early July. It has
to be
but
early
it's really crazy. I was like, wow.
I would say that's
things
because
like Google.
of February.
Things like Google.
I would guess that is because of February, because it's a short month.
Okay, yeah.
I'm taking a guess. What do I know? I'm taking a guess.
Listen, I don't know. It's math. I don't even know how the days really got.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I mean, the folks on the call, on the podcast probably already know this, but how did you? I don't really know your entrepreneurial. How did you get into entrepreneurship?
Okay, so I'm a purebred entrepreneur. Welcome to the show for the first time. He doesn't know, so let's give him the story. I was born an entrepreneur, is how I like to say. Not really. Both my parents are small business owners / workers. My mom is in healthcare, if you will. She's a residential care homeowner. Dad, correction officer, and was in real estate. I am the oldest, so being the oldest means I get to be
how many?
Everything. Oldest of 3. So youngest, 2 little brothers. And being the oldest, I'm just naturally everything. Hey, you're the person to do this. You're the oldest. You have to, the go-to kind of guy. And, being in that kind of curving age, my mom did kind of stay with technology. Like, my mom is super tech savvy for someone who's like 56 now. Right. Oh. So super savvy, but I just have always been, I'm not a computer whiz because I don't do any coding or anything like that, but I just can work my way around the computer because I enjoy technology.
I'm shocked. You like numbers. How do you not like coding?
I want to learn how to code. It's actually a thing. It's like my goal was to learn coding this year, and it did not happen because just
you got time.
I got time. I am gonna learn. Good. I always have just been trying different things like tag sales. Working for my dad was a big one. So we were doing like that was my biggest thing. So I'm like not selling houses, but like renting apartments, essentially. Like scanning people to make, hey, are you going to make sure this gets filled out, helping change the lease, helping update with changes based on previous rent habits, like analyze it for new property buys, like whole 9, and all the way down to like cutting grass. But my dad being a solo business owner, most of like the month consisted of going around to like these properties and just cutting grass, picking up trash, dealing with like sewage blocks and stuff. And I'm like, I know I want to be in like the back end office of everything. Like this out front stuff, this field stuff is not for me. Is basically what I said. So
I get it.
Really hunkered in and wanted to do like, I went to school for accounting, and long story short, like I started.
This makes a lot of sense. Oh man.
My major was accounting, and in college, like one of the very first, I guess, serious businesses I kind of tried to start. It wasn't even that serious, but I built preface, I built websites for fun as a kid. When I learned how to make a website, it was like super fun because I'm like, there's no coding, it's drag and drop.
Yep.
My first website was nickthecreator.com. So from there, in college, I did a couple of like small things, like just trying to work with my dad. And then me and my brother started a sneaker restoration business. It did not take off. I did get sales, but I wasn't as good as he was at it. And when he was like, I don't really like doing this like as a business kind of thing, I kind of was just doing this for fun. And then like you brought it to me as an idea. I was like, cool. But, and I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur. The show goes on. So I started doing it, and I'm just like, this isn't what I'm good at, and this is what I don't want to spend my days doing. So I was doing a bunch of stuff. I can see a business in anything, like especially with the internet.
Love that. And there is a business in everything.
There is. You feel me?
There
especially with the internet now in 2020.
Oh my goodness.
2022.
What?
Anything. So fast forward, I was a bookkeeper / like office manager for like a pet sitting company. And didn't really have any employees. It just had like 5 other dog walkers, but there was no office person for me, not a single office person. So I had to bring her up to speed. Like she had her AR, like her accounts receivable, on a chalkboard.
Wow.
I had to bring everything on the spreadsheets, all that kind of stuff. But I really was like the business manager. I handled like stuff when she was away.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It was like a weird breakup when I transitioned because she felt like I was leaving and everything, but it was just really different and like hard. But when I transitioned, it was because I transitioned into this, and I was like, she's going to be my first client, because I realized I am good at being an assistant. And I took the advice of like, if you want to get close to something, be the assistant of somebody, right? So if I want to be like Mark Cuban, be Mark Cuban's assistant, be like someone else's assistant. Now I can't be those actual people's assistant, but I can build my way up by being other people's assistant.
That is a gem. I'm telling you, that's a gem.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make that a business and learn at the same time. Yeah. So I'm just going to go be everybody's assistant. I'm not going to get you coffee or anything like that. I can do everything virtually. But in the consistent communications of dealing with all these people, I can
learn
this as a business. I just learn a lot. You feel me?
Yeah.
So that's how I started All Source. It wasn't All Source in the beginning. It was called Angelo's Assistants of America. And then fast forward, that's my entrepreneur journey. So fast forward from.
How did the name? Yeah.
I had went to go do a fundraise because I was like, I cannot keep door dashing and missing like doing client work, and things were just like, something's gotta give. So I really wanted to bootstrap like all the way. But I was like, I'm gonna have to go get a fundraise team. So did like a little founder look around, came up with a co-founder. I wanted to bring a sense of unity. So I was like, I can't keep it as Angelo. I probably could have, but I didn't want to keep it as Angelo's Assistants of America because I wanted it to feel like some kind of equity kind of thing. So we changed the name. Then we looked for funding, and he actually knew a guy. I had the easiest fundraise. He actually knew a guy. So shout out to my investor for investing.
That's huge. Right?
We raised it from a super chill guy. He's young. He's a young guy as well.
Awesome.
My ex co-founder, which that happened. He went to Michigan, and he knew him from there. And next, we had a meeting. Boom, boom, boom.
Sick.
That happens. So fast forward, now we're here. He's now like an ex co-founder, small fallout, but nothing crazy. Still have love for the guy and everything. Absolutely amazing person, genius, and has his own thing going right now that I don't want to like spoil, but is primo. Like love what he's working on right now.
What does primo mean?
Like premiere, like
premiere.
So
okay,
I get like
primo. I'm super foreign. No, there are still a lot of terms that
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Meant to ask.
That's fine. Oh, that's perfectly fine. Primo, premiere.
Premiere,
absolutely
great
I love
stuff.
And can't wait for it to launch and everything.
Oh,
But now I'm here,
great.
started the podcast to like have a platform for the business and everything. It's about entrepreneurship because our goal is to support small businesses. We always have like, people on and everything that are from small businesses. In your case, you're an entrepreneur growing in your own kind of thing, which is really how we now culminate to this point, all because of a missed meeting, or in my case, networking like you did, meeting, my colleague who introduced me to Kate, who because of a missed meeting,
small world, man.
meeting you.
Small world.
And we both live in Connecticut.
And we both live in Connecticut. It's a tiny world. It's a tiny world of a bunch of people who are doing very similar things. I mean, from now you could tell me, hey, do you have somebody who could speak on this? I could help out. Like this is what I like about this also. One of my good friends, actually, who knows Nalini, who introduced you to Kate, Demetrius Glover. I don't know if you know Demetrius.
I don't, not yet.
He's the founder of Soul House, which and anywho, though, I'm not even gonna go into that, but he a good friend of mine. One thing that he told me that I picked up from him that I'll always do moving forward is after I have a conversation with somebody, I always ask, like, how can I help? Which I asked you that actually when we got off our first call. It's become like a natural thing for me. But I mean, because we're all here, and we're all doing very similar things, or if not similar, or very sort of parallel things that we can all lend a resource and outsource each other to. So I love what you're doing with this podcast. So thought that was an excellent idea.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I want to go tactical because I feel like we did a lot of like great talk, right? But I want to go tactical for a minute, right? So you're in communications, you're in social media.
Yeah.
We are now, you've seen the Facebook changes and everything with how they're marketing and paid ads go and everything.
Oh Lord, yeah.
What is your particular strategy, or what do you talk about in your meetings when you're running campaigns? What is your current strategy right now?
That's a solid question. All right, so across all the projects that I work on, I'm going to choose Digital Media Connecticut because it's my sort of most day-to-day sort of thing. All right, so strategically, and across all projects too, I've learned this is that social media is you won't need all of them for whatever you're running. So strategically, I always think about, all right, so which one do we need to use and how do we plan to use it, right? I do believe in boosting ads, but one thing about boosting ads that I've noticed is how do I get that click on the link? How do I get that sign up? How do I get that? And that's always a tough part. They always say impressions. You'll have 12,000 impressions for your $15, et cetera, but how do I get the people to the actual document? For example, we recently wrote a manifesto, which is a document. It's an educational document that was produced by our collaborative, the higher education professionals, essentially speaking about the 4 different branches of digital media within Connecticut, right? So now, I had to, my colleague and I, the goal was to get as many downloads off of our website as possible for that document. So now, my first thought was, okay, our target folks, it's both students and faculty. Realistically, though, I knew for a fact that students, they were not going to read this very thick document. Like it's, unless you really care and you're like a book reading person, you're not going to sit there and read that document. Right. Instead, you would probably rather get snippets, which easily you pick that up, throw it on Instagram, give them snippets on Instagram. But for Facebook, I was just like, we have to target faculty, older folks, folks who are in grad school working on those types of projects. So my strategy is always thinking about, okay, the people who you're going for, just I can get as specific as possible. And I, when I talk about marketing, I don't like to sound redundant or sound or tell you things that we've all read about marketing, because it can be very repetitive. It can all be the same thing all the time. So I guess the main takeaway that I would say is have a strategy for each. Don't take one thing and throw it on one thing. That's never my strategy. If I we have a podcast, right? That we recently launched. Literally this morning, I published episode 2 of season 2, right? So now pushing that out, Twitter is going to look different than Facebook, than Instagram, than LinkedIn. And those are our 4 main that we use, right? So I'll grab a video soundbite, throw it on Instagram. Granted, that could work for all 4 platforms, but paying attention to, okay, like, but if I grab the photo of our speakers and I threw it on all 4 platforms, where did it do well? Because I mean, social media always tells us exactly what performs and what doesn't. We choose to ignore it and be lazy and just publish all 4 all the time. So being a statistics person, like, and I am a little bit of I like to see.
Oh, now we get to statistics.
So things like that excite me because I like to know, like, where is my impact? For example, on my own personal Instagram, I know my audience to like the back of my hand. I kid you not. I know my audience like the back of my hand. So when I try to bring that into different businesses, I have to have a different approach. And that approach literally is try it out 3 times, try it out for 2 weeks, and then literally look at every statistic, and then it'll tell you where, what time, how many people, what kind of people, why did they look at it? And then like in your head, you do your own summary as to why. You can say, okay, wow. And on Facebook, by the way, my hypothesis was correct. A lot of it, they were mostly from Lower Fairfield, Connecticut, and I went that specific as to where I wanted to target it. And it was mostly Lower Fairfield County, higher education professionals. And they were from ages between, like, I believe it was mid-20s and up. And all of that, like when you do stuff like that, that's how I strategically move with any social media. And I've managed social media accounts I managed a pastor's social media account. I helped him grow that. I've worked on now Elf with the grant. I've worked on a school, well, Digital Media Connecticut, growing that as like a small business as well. Ran on campus things while I was in school, and my own, actually. I take my own a little bit seriously as well, because I want to put some type of branding to it. So my own is sort of the experiment to what I'm going to bring to everywhere else, essentially. But, just to summarize, thinking like, don't experiment once or 2, 3 times. If you have to do 5 times and you have the budget, do it. And being personable. Don't just drop little things out there, just people to read. Put people's faces on it. I can talk about this all day. Like, that's one of my passions, honestly, social marketing. But at this point, though, I don't want to do it. I want to manage people who do it, basically.
Okay, so what do you think your next step is? Do you feel like you're going to at some point depart and have like your own digital agency? Do you feel like you're going to like grow someone else's thing? Like, what do you feel like your calling is for that?
Yeah, so I think I started writing up a plan to have my own. And this is the first time I'm literally vocalizing it. Second, actually, I've told my best friend this, but otherwise, yeah, I started writing things down. And I have a whole plan already with, in terms of the name, branding, what I want it to look like, what is my my secret sauce, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to own my own, but I think I'm starting to realize that as an entrepreneur, like, this is probably already out there. And, how will I do it differently? 1, is it worth doing it? 2, and I'm starting to realize entrepreneurship, for your idea to really be effective, is it going to change the world? Is it that different? Like, and which is why the secret sauce matters. So in terms of owning my own, I want to, and I will, but I want to do it right. I need it to make sense. Like, I needed to change something. I needed to be different. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Granted, like, on the back end, I'm not going to go kill myself so I can try to come up with some crazy idea or whatever. There's certain things that I will take, but I need that secret sauce to be like no other, basically. So I'm going to take my time with that. But I know that in my next role, I've created internship programs, and I've managed social media coordinators, et cetera, et cetera. I want to be in a management position or director position is my next role. And
how do you, okay, so you're saying that, and there's like this whole thing, I'm assuming you're pretty deep in Twitter with I don't know why I just lost the name now that I said it. I didn't mean to interrupt, but like the name of it, it's like, it's not FOMO, it's imposter syndrome. There we go. Like a lot of people are like feeling imposters, and I've kind of felt it before at some points. How do you know you're good? Like, are you like, I know I'm good, or like
that's a good question. You know, the first time I said that my next role, I wanted to be a director title or a manager title. I want to go in. The gentleman who I told that to, he said, like, are you sure? Like, with your level of experience, et cetera, et cetera. And I took a brief pause. Like, yeah, nah, that's exactly what I want. But I know that I'm good because 1 year of experience for me is like, it's like 2. Okay. So technically in my 3 years of experience, I'm already 6 years in. And I say that
that's not how that math works. You're 3 years experience in. That's 3. That's 3 years. 3.
Listen.
I understand what you mean. Each year feels like 2 when we're young. I know. Like, I've been doing this since like like not even like 8. I've been 8. I feel like I'm experienced in, like, do you have a track record? Like, okay, so you work a lot of these projects. I have no doubt that like you're definitely qualified given the fact that you're managing and working with all these projects. Yeah. What have you seen work?
Sure. So listen, I said what I said for so many reasons, right? So number 1, I do know how to run a business. Number 2, I know how a board works. And I've been a part of an executive search for a nonprofit. And that perspective, honestly, is something that I will take on my resume and add forever, because trying to get, basically a president for an organization is no small feat. Like hiring a whole firm, like it's that whole process, understanding that is something that, and as I go through every single process, by the way, I'm the most attentive and inquisitive person you will ever meet. Like I don't leave anything to chance, right? I know how to manage people. I am an effective leader. Like, and I mean an effective leader. I'm not a good leader. I'm a great leader, but I'm an effective leader. Like, I think the word effective is more important. Because, and I say that again, because I feel
like that's important.
Right. And I've met bad leaders. So in my experience, I've seen things that I don't want that makes me know what I do want, basically. And in terms of and to be real specific, so I've been a project coordinator, and I'm a lead coordinator. And so the next role realistically would be like project management or something like that. But why not be a director? I have I've looked at director like job, descriptions or whatever. And it's a lot of, you got to be able to report. You got to be able to put programs together. You have to be able to present it to a team. You have to be able to motivate a team. I can do that. So
right, that's what you do right now.
So, and thank you very much. And I had this interview for a director position, actually. And I am currently like actively in conversations about those roles. So,
so like you went and applied and like, oh no, I'm not. I'm not BSing. Like,
no, it's happening.
Y'all gonna give you, okay. I like it.
So, and I say that very humbly and as a blessed young man. But yeah, so I had an interview for like a director role, and one of the questions, it was like, you're gonna manage a staff who are like, they're like 30 years or 20 years older than you. How are you gonna deal with that? And that's why the first question you ask, it's a very important question, especially as a leader, and it's you got to manage that. I have an extra delicate way that I have to handle those relationships. That's all it is. It's all about handling the relationships. And folks are going to be like, who the heck is he? Like, why, what? But I understand and know how to manage every single one of those scenarios. So, and I guess it's more than a gut feeling. It's very much so skill set.
So the soft skills, the most important thing in business right now.
Correct. Yes. And remember how I said, like, statistically, I can look at a social media page and I can tell you so much about it by literally just visualize, like without even looking at statistics, and I can present that. So if I'm running a program, which I currently am, and I'm doing this anyways, I can put together budgets. I can start a business from the beginning at this point up until a certain extent. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it, I'm just like, I know how to interact with, CEOs, C-suite executives, and it's so a lot of these things, man. I think some of it is you have to
overrated. Yes.
It's overrated. It's overrated. And they say six, and that's the one thing that I never like when I look at these job descriptions. It'll be like 5 to 7 years in the industry, and that's probably what's always it's gonna make it harder for me to make it harder. That's the only thing. But once we have a conversation and I start speaking about my experience, you'll be like, oh, okay, and that's all it is, in my opinion.
Now, I don't recommend this. What if you just lied about how much, like, how long?
Yeah, no.
No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that.
Oh my goodness, no.
No. Tell them you have 6 years experience because each year was 2 years. 2 years.
3. I'm going on 4. Technically, I'm on 8 right now.
I'm on 8 years experience right now. You feel me?
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I know how to sell my experience. My 1 year of experience, I can make it sound so thick that, the things that I learned, like I worked at a startup out of my first job out of college, and I acquired the title of oh my God, creative director. And one day I was like, what even is that? And I looked at the title of a creative director. They were making like $80,000+ a year. I was making nowhere near that. I mean, like literally less than 50 at that startup. So I'm like, but I mean, I'm sort of doing creative, director work. I mean, it might not be the exact sort of thing, and I'm literally only 3 months in, but I'm sort of doing it. But that's not I can be realistic though and be like, okay, I need more experience in that field. But that experience, literally, I was put into a role where I had to learn, I had to teach, I had to, I couldn't do a terrible job because there is a whole organization that needs my expertise that I don't have. So literally, I've always been put in situations where I had to grow, simple. And I've always taken those and I always ran with them. And everyone around me, and when I'm in an organization too, I don't just learn from my department. I will go talk to the VP of economic development. I know a lot about economic development. Like my role right now, which is about retention, retaining talent. I can tell you how that affects the economic development of Connecticut. One talent that stays and works here is worth so much to the state. So I take a project like that and I go to Lamont and I'm like, hey, Governor Lamont, like, if you
have Governor Lamont in your phone?
No.
I was like, connected.
Oh my God. No, I have state reps, not Lamont. If I wanted to get to Lamont, though, I think I could. I don't see why I couldn't.
I have no idea where to start to get to Lamont. So you got me beat.
Start at the state reps. But like things like that, I know I can prove something. I'll be like, hey, this is how it would benefit the state. And but like that's not just me learning to be a lead coordinator. Me being a lead coordinator, I have I can take a project and bring it up to the next person. And then I could be like, I need 100,000 to do this. And I need this much staff. And by next year, I will want 200,000 because I want this amount of growth, et cetera, et cetera. Like the way that one role doesn't really box you in to that specific thing. You don't just have to be a marketing specialist forever. As a marketing specialist, you can literally create your own division and own business out of the same organization if you think about it. But yeah, this is how I think all the time. You're getting me to use my brain a lot right now.
Well, like that's a perfect time for this segment, right? We have a question from an email that came in from Mikey T, right? He has a construction business and he says he is having trouble keeping retention for people that he hires. It just seems like people don't want to work anymore. How can I get people to like work at my construction business?
Ask them. Just straight up. I mean, as a leader, I always do this. Moving into any organization, because you're going to try to do your own thing and it's not going to work. So either ask them or get sort of a planning committee together and of other people in his role or in his position and say, hey, what are you noticing at your organization that's keeping them? What's losing them? What's this, that, and the third? So either get like 5, 7 of the same folks in one room and then have a prompt question, have a nice little agenda to discuss, okay, hey, how can we improve this? What are your workers saying? And then the next level would be to straight up ask them. And I'll give you the reason why I say this, because running the group of young professionals, when I got that email list, it was dead. No one was involved. The first thing I did, and it was like instinct, was I can't just come up here and start putting together events for these young professionals. I don't know what they want. I know what I want. I would want to have, you know, like professional development. I would want to have volunteer opportunities. I would want happy hours, but that's what I want. And, you know, but so what I did was I put together a different, so I went and chose different, you know, people from different organizations of young professionals. And I said, hey, what would you guys want to see? And when I tell you it was the most effective thing, not only do they felt like they were heard, they wanted to share. Like, and after that, all you have to do is deliver as a leader. That's like the easiest way to solve that. And that's always what it is about retention. And a lot of organizations are sort of missing that gap with talent.
I think that at this point, which I don't want to say it should be obvious, but I feel like it's not, because so many businesses are cutthroat. There are so many businesses are hard, cold shoulders. Like, oh, you listen to me, I'm the boss. Like, you do what I say. Like, oh, back in my day, like, you're lucky to even be working, kind of thing. And it's really dawning on me that even just not having that thinking of like, yo, I'm your boss, you have to listen to me, really, and listening, like, you know, not only asking, you know, but listening, as you said, listening and taking that into how you then move forward and implement something is the key. But I don't know how so many people miss it now.
And the thing is, and all of that is just straight up workforce development. If you think strategically about the workforce development, you want your people to feel comfortable enough to come talk to you. And that's, by the way, that was another thing, like as a leader, that's another very important characteristic trait. Like, no matter the age you are, no matter who you're managing, you know, you want your folks to feel welcomed, happy, and, you know, and they'll literally come tell you things that you don't even ask at one point. But what you just said though is so accurate. And I mean, working with some of our corporate partners, it's still, and which is why when I told you about the mentorship, we took out the word internship, and it was like, it was different. We made it different because there is a bridge gap with how talent, you know, is, you know, working here and why they want to leave. You know, they see Google is giving them everything. Google is giving them, you know, the world, the life, whatever. But these organized, like a lot of the corporations here, they just think, oh my God, like, you know, you have to follow this protocol, that protocol. And I don't want to give you work from home. It's a bunch of, you know, all those things they think is it's good, but it's almost detrimental, which is why the talent is leaving Connecticut. A lot of people, they leave and go work in New York. They go work in Boston. They go work in Cali. They go to Atlanta. They're Florida, like Texas, which is there's a rising number of people moving in Texas right now. So yeah, that was a really good question though. And I think if they apply that, oh my goodness, 100%. I'm very confident in that answer. Just understanding your people is such a huge plus, man. Yeah.
I definitely think you have a place somewhere, man. Like, you've been ahead of the curve a long time now. It seems like you did that. So before we go and everything, we always love to ask one question, and we always kind of make it specific, right? So to the other young professionals, the other young entrepreneurs out there, if you were to give them one piece of advice for sticking up for yourself in the workplace, with other people, what's your one piece of advice?
Sticking up for yourself in the workplace with other people.
With older people.
With older people. Okay. Okay, that is a great question again. And I have had to do this. Okay, so All right. So I think the most important thing is going into the conversation, like actually knowing exactly what's bothering you. And for example, let's say you want a pay increase. Let's say you want $5,000 more, or you want to go to your investor and say, hey, I want like this much more money. The first step is like knowing exactly what you want, and then knowing how to communicate it, right? So because when you get to the conversation, the intimidation, it can easily take over and whatever, and you go out the conversation and nothing happens, essentially. So, and I think communication here is super important, like super important. You don't want to come off as like, you don't want to come off as like too like, oh my God, like, can I please, like, you don't want to come off, too quiet or too aggressive. So I would say the first, like, most important thing is literally knowing exactly what you want and showing, like, if you want that pay increase, like, hey, I've been working here for so and so now, I'm just wondering if there's any room for growth. And there's a weird part about what I just said that sounds like something that you can just pick up from anywhere, and I'm trying to be specific because, like I said, I don't like to repeat other people's things, but could definitely communication, very clear communication. Hey, like, this is honestly, that's probably the best answer. This is, can I have some time to speak with you, et cetera, and just being very straightforward and being able to show the reason why you're asking what you're asking very straightforwardly.
I absolutely love it. It's been absolutely amazing in having you here.
Thank you.
This has been an amazing show. Like, this is a top tier show right here for this episode. Love it.
Makes me so happy. This is awesome.
Before we have to officially get you out, where can we find you on social media? Where do we find you?
Sure. All right. Well, my Instagram, LinkedIn first is Marvin Louis. Okay. It's just my name, Marvin Louis. Can't miss it. It's lead coordinator at Digital Media. You'll see it. And then my Instagram, the one that the only one that I basically promote it's at Carvin 13. So at C, instead of Marvin, it's Carvin with a C. At Carvin, and then where else? No, that's about it. I literally just like to promote those two in terms of like my professional. And I mean, if this is more like sort of, because I don't even use Facebook, like my personal Facebook like that. So yeah, those two is perfect.
It was absolutely amazing.
And then please share my email also. Seriously, don't hesitate to do that. Which is, you have that, or I don't, can I say that? Or
say your email. So if you want to reach out to Marvin Louis and snatch him up, young talent right here, as a marketing director, where can we email you?
So it would be Marvin Louis, and so that's Marvin, that's MarvinLouis 509 at gmail.com. So it's Marvin Louis 509 at gmail.com. And a simple message on LinkedIn or connection also is awesome, and Instagram is good. Yeah,
that's absolutely perfect. We thank you so much for joining us.
My God, I thank you for having me. This is probably the second time I've done a podcast recording, but I loved it. This was awesome. You're an excellent host, by the way. Like, seriously.
I try. Thank you. I try.
Excellent host. Because there was one point I started to like nod off, which I do tend to do, but like, reel it back in.
No. That's perfect, because that's why it's called The Ramblings.
Oh, you know what? Even the name is innovative.
I do that.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode.
Hey Ramblers, that's it. Podcast is over. Don't leave yet though. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and follow us on YouTube at OffSource HQ. We'll see you next time.